Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Captive Audience. It's Don Anders here once again with his co-host Leslie Snyder. What say you, Leslie?
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy to be here.
It's another happy Wednesday, and we're always happy to, if not necessarily see you, see each other, and then you all are happy to hear us, I hope.
Yeah. I guess they can just turn it off if they don't
Yeah,
want to hear us.
exactly. We love hearing each other monologue, so maybe that's all we need, right?
No,
But
put your
glad to
comments
be
in the chat. We want to know. We want
Yes,
this to be interactive. Come on,
yeah,
help us out.
absolutely. So give it up so we know that you're there, so that we know that you're there. So basically, there's always a ton of stuff to talk about. Somehow, there's just always a ton of stuff. And I was just telling Leslie that I had one of those crazy weeks where I really didn't get an opportunity to review as much news as I normally do. But there's so much in the air that it's just so easy to pick stuff. And so, like 30 minutes ago, I was cruising around for some things about, and this is more local, but you see the same thing in every liberal city. And this is like Portland politics and like crime and what's going on here. So I'll just give you some quick and dirty stuff that I saw here with regard to Portland. So, crime rate. So, Portland has one of the highest crime rates per capita in the United States, right? 62 per 1,000 residents in 2024, which means 1 in 16 residents may experience a crime. I mean, get your head around that. 1 in 6, you got a 1 in 16 chance if you live in Portland of experiencing a crime of some sort. What is this? In 2024, Portland's violent crime rate was 406 per 100,000. That's double the national average of 200, basically. Property crime, 457 per 100,000, well above the average. And the city ranks in the 14th percentile for safety, which basically means that there's only 14% of cities in the United States that are as safe as Portland. 86% of the cities are safer than Portland. Let's put it that way, right? And this was a place where you could walk around all hours of the day and night, like 20 years ago, like no problem. And the only thing that's changed is Portland politics. And a lot of this coincides with back in 2024 when they passed Measure 110, which decriminalized all drugs in 2020.
Yeah.
74% of multiple counties residents supported that. I'm not sure if I really believe that in light of all the people cheating,
Yeah.
but let's say it's even 50%. Common sense would tell you that if you do that, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
It's like unreal how many people live in a fantasy, and you do that at the same time as you what do you call it? Reduce the police. Remember that whole thing, anti-police. Reduce the number of police. Decriminalize drugs. Surprise, surprise, surprise. You get out of control crime. We've got vacancy rates in downtown Portland 30, 40, 50%. Buildings are like completely empty. The biggest building in downtown Portland, they call it Big Pink, is what they call it. It's a 40-story building. The thing sold for like, I think it was at 420 million, like in 2016, and now it just sold for 40 million, right? I mean, like pennies on the dollar. You go downtown, and at least a couple of years ago, it was like packed with people urinating, defecating, naked in the streets, doing drugs, running around with like swords, I mean, machetes, you name it. Now there's nobody. I'm not sure which is better, whether it's because you're void of people now because all the businesses left and half the population's moved. And one last point, I got to tell you this, Leslie, because this is like classic. I think I mentioned in the last few broadcasts how when you drive, I've driven through Portland a bunch of times recently, and the traffic is way down. I mean, way down. Well, I had to go to Salem. Salem's about an hour south of Portland. That's the capital, right? And I had to go to Salem for it was an event my son was involved in. And I'm talking in the middle of the day. I had to come back during rush hour. No red light. I'm talking no brake lights. All the way from the southern part of the city through to Vancouver, no brake lights. I'm telling you now, it's a combination of people leaving, businesses have left, and there's a lot less illegals on the road. They're just not around. What else can explain it? And I was in Seattle the week before, and I experienced the same thing.
Well, I mean, there's good and bad in what you just said. No illegals on the road, yay. Nobody else on the road, bad. No businesses, no residents, no families, no single, people out there enjoying the community and the businesses. But I mean, that's how it goes. I mean, I'm going to pick up on that. And the left and their pro-crime policies, their pro-illegal immigration, policies, they've landed in a couple places, with Portland being one of them, San Diego, and I mean, every major town in California is being affected. But we have a couple things that are in the news right now. There's an issue. There was a young 18-year-old college freshman in Chicago, was out with a bunch of her girlfriends, and was heading down towards the lake, Lake Michigan, and an illegal alien sprung up, masked, with a gun, chased her and her friends, shot her in the back, and killed her. And nobody is speaking out on her behalf and acknowledging that this guy is a dirtbag illegal alien. In fact, the alderwoman of her district responded that from all of the police information, all of the, okay, that's my law-abiding son who just came through the door. But anyway, for all of the information that she's received, that she's heard about, it sounds like a case of wrong place, wrong time. So she went out and she said this. Unfortunately for her, Megyn Kelly found out about this. This woman's mom, this little girl's mom, 18-year-old's mom, came to one of Megyn Kelly's shows. And so Megyn is now like on it, like a freaking bulldog. She's all over this alderwoman. So is the rest of the press. She's come back into, she's published a statement on Facebook, basically saying that her words were taken out of context, and that, she's been misrepresented. But nobody in the media will actually say that this guy is an illegal alien, and that not only that, but apparently he was apprehended twice, once by ICE, and then a second time he was arrested for shoplifting. They didn't alert ICE because they're a sanctuary state, so the police didn't alert them, and so this guy's just out on, and I mean, neither of his crimes were violent, so I don't know what happened. He must be on drugs, whatever. But the point is, here's an illegal alien who somehow is being protected by the left, and you've got this 18-year-old freshman in college, beautiful girl, who now isn't going to have a future and is not going to contribute to our society. And we could talk about those cases all day long. I mean, we've got the Minnesota AG, Keith Ellison, who's suing the feds because he's complaining that the state wants to do their own investigation into the murder of Preddy and Good, the nurse, the guy who brought the loaded gun and two loaded mags to an ICE protest, and Good, who drove her car into an ICE agent being shot. And so they're suing the feds to try to gain access to, the witnesses and all the records, because they don't believe that, the feds are going to do a fair job. Like, we've just lost our way. These people have lost their way. I mean, I'm sure we could talk about lots of stuff going on in Seattle. We've got that guy in Seattle, those two cases that just came up about, what's his name? Cordell Gooseby. Killed a woman and her unborn child in 2023. And he's now, he was facing 57 years in prison, but instead he's going to be sent to a psychiatric hospital. Where you can get out. Another guy back in 2024, 48-year-old career criminal, carjacked an 80-year-old woman, ripped her out of her car, ran over her with her car. She was heading to a dog park. The dog was in the car. He stabbed the dog to death and then was apprehended. And same thing. He's mental illness. He won't take his meds. So he's not fit for trial. And then they force him to take his meds. Yeah. And then it's just like, we just need to take these people out and shoot them. I know that's so like wrong to say, but I don't know what
I thought I was hardcore.
No. I mean, that I know that's so terrible and that's so unchristian, but I don't know, Don. I mean, how do you make this right?
Well, if I was going to say a positive in this, they are showing us exactly who they are. I mean, for any person who's a reasonably thinking person who has any thoughts at all, we know who they are. They used to hide it and obfuscate and all those kinds of things. They've taken the covers off. They're telling us that, hey, we want to abort babies after they're born.
Oh my gosh.
We want to.
Gosh.
We're even for that. We want to like chop your children without even you knowing about it.
Yeah.
We want to like turn criminals loose, willy nilly without any jail time at all. They're telling us exactly who they are, and as bad as it sounds, this is good come elections, and it makes a very easy. These things are making for such great TV commercials and ads for any kind of reasonably conservative. You don't have to be a conservative candidate. Just be a JFK Democrat, even,
Mm-hmm.
and you should be able to clean clock. Particularly, and then we're going to talk about this in a minute. Particularly when we start reducing the ability to cheat, which the Supreme Court's looking at, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. So I think what it boils down to, Leslie, is this, and I think the audience would agree with this. Until you understand that there's such a thing as true evil, and it's hard for people to comprehend that. It's hard for decent people to get their arms around that there are people who are truly evil. It reminds me of when I thought about when I was having all those courses back in high school and college about what was happening in Germany when Hitler started making his moves against the Jews. There were Jews who were forward thinking who thought, I'm getting out of Dodge City because this guy basically said he wants to kill us all. But most of them are like, well, maybe it's not that bad. He's just talking. He doesn't really mean it. He's not really going to do all that stuff. And a lot of them wound up in gas chambers, right? So when crazy people tell you they want to kill you, you need to believe them. And you look at forget what they say, look at what they do, and look at the results that they get. You look at the blue cities in this country, blue geographies, look at the results they've gotten. It's been consistently horrible. That should really make it easier, again, if you get rid of the cheating, to win elections. So there's positive.
Yeah, well, when you talk about if they get rid of the cheating, I've been hearing about, we've got ICE that's now been deployed to the airports. As we were talking about, I just went through an airport yesterday. My daughter went through the airport on Sunday. I can tell you that my experience with San Diego and Philly airports it's a piece of cake.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's not some over exaggeration going on. I know that there are airports that are clogged and are ugly.
Mhm.
People are missing flights. I get that.
Mhm.
But I don't think, I mean, from my personal experience, that's not representative of all major airports. I mean, San Diego is a major airport. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
LAX, but still, it's a San Diego airport.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, major airport. Was there 3 times, four
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
in the last week. No
I
problem.
read that. Yeah, I read that somewhere. It was specific to certain, and the media's, it's right, but it's not everywhere. It's like specific airports. Heaven help you if you're traveling through those airports. But yeah, and I saw that somewhere. So,
Yeah.
I'm no expert on that, but
Yeah.
that's what I've heard
Yeah.
as well.
But I know that, with the deployment of ICE to the airports, I think it is a brilliant PR move. Now, all of a sudden, people are going to be able to, all these people, these villains, that we're supposed to believe have been targeting innocent people. And, the Dems were talking about how they were going to be dragging innocent people away and beating them up and putting them in prison. And they're just like standing there, like hot firemen, standing in their like little tight shirts,
Helping you get in your plane.
Yeah. Like, hello, sir, can you help me with? I mean, heck yeah, and
No. The
anyway,
blue-haired
I feel
crazies.
safe. I
Yeah.
feel safe.
The
And
blue-haired crazies who are saying those things, there's no logic you can put in front of them that's going to change their mind.
No,
Forget
I
about
mean,
them. It's the next group you got to worry about.
when you are in a stressful situation, I'm just going to tell you, to see someone who looks like they have authority, a person in a uniform, a person who looks like they are in charge and they can take care of business, like ICE, not some doofy TSA agent, but like an actual legit law enforcement person. It's very reassuring. It's very reassuring. And I think most Americans feel that way. So I'm glad that they're doing it. And I also really, really hope that the Republicans hold out and they don't make any concessions, that they absolutely rub the Dems' nose in this debacle, and they hold out to make sure that the SAFE Act gets passed. If
Yeah.
we make any concessions that could degrade our chances of getting that thing passed,
100% agree.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
so mad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100% agree. And if we lose because Republicans like the what do you call it? The rhino crowd does it, we know who they are, and we need to like get rid of them the next possible opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
let's. This is no time to waffle. In fact, we can't waffle on anything. If you look at it, the reason we're in this position we're in is because we kept waffling for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You keep give a little, give a little, give a little, give a little, and remember, leftists never stop. They will never stop till we're all slaves, because that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And you just have to know that in your bones. You don't have to be mean and nasty and curse and all of that. Just know who your enemy is and
You know,
what their objectives are.
I have to tell you that it has been very instructive to me to encounter people who are truly bad in my life. When you encounter somebody who is truly bad, who will lie to your face over and over again, who will cheat and steal, it's so eye-opening. And you need that in order to solidify your convictions,
Mhm.
in order for you to understand, no, I can't give into this.
Mhm.
I'm not dealing with a reasonable person. I'm dealing with evil.
Well, and that's why, and I think one of the things, one of the benefits of being an American citizen is Americans are generally nice people. You talk to people who come and visit here from other countries, one of the things they walk away with is how nice the average American is. I'm constantly amazed that people let me go to the front of the line. You have less stuff than I do, go to the front. Or you don't have exact change here, I'll cover it for you. I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time, and we take that for granted. But one of the downsides of that is we don't want to look at evil. We just don't. And I can get that, but I know one of the things that I really benefited from in high school and college, I really got into, I would read the nasty stuff like Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag, for example, right? So I read about what people did to other people in the Gulag. And I read the firsthand accounts of people who were in Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, and places like that. And you really understand what human beings at that end of the spectrum are capable of, and they walk among us. And the only difference between the guy who knocks over a 7-Eleven, and murders the guy behind the counter, and the guy who gets into political office and like rips off your whole country, is the one guy just a higher IQ than the other. I mean, the world would have been a lot better off if Hitler was knocking over 7-Elevens, but he had a little bit more ambition than that, and he was a hell of a lot smarter than that. It's the smart evil ones that you really have to be scared of.
Yeah. It's like I was having a conversation with somebody today. It's the in your face aggressors are very easy to deal with. You recognize it, you can confront it, you can, deal with it. It's kind of the passive aggressives that, sort of become like the psychopaths, the sociopaths. They're the ones they're the narcissists. They're the ones that are stabbing you, while they're smiling in your face. And that's a lot of what's going on. You've got these, these criminals, these illegals, these criminals who are in your face terrible, but then you've got all these AGs and politicians who are giving it a pass, and they're climbing. They're smiling while they're stabbing you.
Yeah, it's like they want chaos.
All right. I don't want to keep talking about that.
Yeah. Get off enough of that subject. Got it. Moving right along.
So I was listening to something recently, and they were talking about how there's some Democrat politicians who seem to be agitating for a presidential bid. Josh Shapiro is one. J.B. Pritzker is one. Of course, we know Gavin Newsom from California is one. And one of the things that they're doing is they're playing into this beta male, soy boy kind of victim mentality. They're like, was it Josh Shapiro just released a book sometime in the last year basically painting his mother to be, not a great woman, and placing himself as a victim. Gavin Newsom kind of does the same. JB Pritzker does the same. Is it JB that actually, is it Josh or is it JB? No, it's JB who actually, both of his parents died when he was quite young, but he's like the heir to the Hyatt, fortune. Gavin Newsom, of course, is in the same family with the Gettys, right? So, I mean, this is like American royalty that we're talking about. Josh Shapiro, I think his dad was governor. So he grew up in the governor's mansion. So, there's this discussion about how these Dems are trying to play themselves as, well, I'm strong and I'm successful, but I've risen above and I'm flawed, and you should kind of feel a little bit sorry for me, right? Like, you should, like women who like to fix men, I'm a perfect person for that, right? Which is like a lot of women. But anyway, and the question is, why are they doing that? Is it because they want to be attractive to their own base, or is it because they're anticipating a runoff between two Republicans who actually overcame real circumstances? Not Ron DeSantis. What's his name? Well, JD Vance and Marco Rubio.
Right. Well, I think, I do believe this, by the way, most leftists, that are in these offices, it's like a Shakespearean play. They're playing a role. It's very narcissistic. I mean, you look at the representative, the congresswoman from Minnesota, the one from New York City. It's very much about attention. It's attention-getting behavior. You ask them a substantive question, and they don't know anything. I mean, they can't even fake it and sound smooth. I mean, at least Obama could sound smooth. I mean, the one that got questioned, I think she was at some United Nations panel, and they asked her some question, and she had
AOC.
AOC, and it was like the most basic question, and it was like more uhs and buzz, and it was just unbelievable, like deer in the headlights. And so I think that all the candidate needs to do that's running against them is, tell us what the problem is. What is your solution to the problem? And then what's the evidence to support that your solution will work? Because they never talk about that stuff. And they can't, because their geographies are decimated. Can you imagine what in the world could Gavin Newsom possibly run on? Every word out of his mouth is like an anti-Trump word, where people don't vote for, I'm not voting against that guy. Tell me what I'm voting for. What are you going to do that makes me want to elect you, regardless of who that person is? What are you going to do? And none of them can do it because their local geographies are just shredded.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked up the crime rate in Chicago just for the last 28 days. Chicago reported 35 murders in the last 28 days, 331 robberies, 447 aggravated batteries, 331 burglaries, 3,776 thefts, and 1,237 motor vehicle thefts. Okay. 35 murders in the last 28 days.
It's unbelievable. I mean, like I was just saying, like, for example, this isn't as bad as those things, but driving through Portland the other day, you never had pothole problems. We used to laugh about the East Coast having all the potholes, right? I'm talking New Jersey style potholes, right? If your car hits that pothole, your tire might pop. And I was at my son's house, just like, when did this happen? It's like they have blown the wad on all kinds of junk. And now the fundamental things that they're supposed to take care of for the city, like fixing freaking potholes, and putting signs up, aren't happening anymore.
Yeah.
This is what happens, though, when you have children in office. And that's what they are. They're children. They won't face any issue head on. It's all about their feelings.
Yeah.
I feel, and not the hard, decision making of, I got X number of dollars, and I got these three problems. How am I going to allocate these precious resources to fix the problem? And no, I'm not going back to the cash-strapped taxpayers to do it.
Oh, no, we don't have anybody who's responsible in any of the blue states. I mean,
Oh, the West Coast is like a joke.
I mean, you just like gas is almost up to $7 a gallon in California, in San Diego.
Yeah, I saw a $6. I was up in Seattle last week, and I saw one for $6 for the first time up here. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!"
I was at the grocery store tonight. I bought a package of chicken
Mhm.
breasts. I brought 2 bottles of wine because I have to self-medicate.
Right.
I bought some salad, like fresh vegetables.
Mhm.
I bought a jar of marinated artichokes, some Kalamata olives. I paid $165, Don.
Hey, we're in a moment. You know, we are really in a moment. Yeah. What can I say? You know.
I had a foot massage before that. It was cheaper with tip. I was like, I needed that. I should have just not eaten and not had the wine and just dealt with that. I mean, like, I just
Well,
like, I don't.
I'm so glad I have old people tastes. I don't need to do anything anymore. Thank goodness. Because if you go out to dinner or something, man, you need to take out a reverse mortgage or something just to buy a meal.
Well, I sit there and I
Um,
think, like, why am I paying for this? Like, it's
yeah.
gonna, like, it is literally going to be gone in 24 hours. Why am I buying this? I would rather buy a dress or go to a play or do something that I have a memory of, that, like, I don't know. I just,
Well, when it gets to the insulting stage, when I sit down at like, and this happened about 4 years ago, actually. And it was like a burger, fries, and a soda. And I think it was $22. And I thought, I'm not doing that. I'm just not. I mean, bring me the fry. All right. Maybe how much for 2 fries? Just 2. Not the bag of fries. I mean,
we went out last night. We went out last night to like a corner bar, Rockies. We had one burger. I had like one bite. I wasn't that hungry. It was like burger $10.95 for it was a third pound burger.
Yeah.
And an order of fries. And it was like $25.
Yeah. I don't
burger and fries.
What amazes me is people still go.
I know.
mean, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just refuse to. Now, part of this is, I was having this conversation with my son the other day. One of the benefits of having a home is just have people to your house or you go to their house. And it's a lot less expensive. You don't have to pay tips. You stick around as long as you want. You do, what do you call it?
Potluck.
Potluck, and hey, and everybody has a great time. And that's pretty much what we've done for the last, now part of this, I kind of burn out on always taking, because I had a business where I was always taking people to dinner, right? So I don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
But if you're young, that's painful because part of being young is, you like doing that stuff.
Yeah. You want to be out and about. You want to meet people.
Right.
You want to be hanging out, and you probably have some crappy little apartment. You don't want to bring, if you're in a big city, it's super expensive. You can't bring people back and have a good time. So, I mean, I'm very, very compassionate to those people. I'm grateful that I have, friends that, are cool with just being chill, and like you said, doing the potluck. And
but they're crushing young people, particularly the ones that, maybe you grew up, you go to school, you go to college, you want to live in a city, and you get there and you realize that you're carrying this, $100,000 in debt. You're in like this big city. The rent's like $3,000 a month, right? And then you can't get a job that fits in your degree field. And there you are, right? It's like, that's a recipe for revolution, by the way. When you have enough young people who are educated, think they deserve more, don't get more, that most revolutions are started by that demographic, actually, if you think about it. It's not really the poor people that raise up and overthrow governments. It's young people who do that. And you get too many of them, And you look at what they're doing in New York City, for example, right now. Those are some very, very unhappy, highly educated people. And I don't mean educated in any complimentary sense because we know what kind of education they got. But the thing is they think, and that's what matters, they think they deserve more. And they're just not going to get it, particularly in that city. And you go back 30 years ago, you could, on a reasonable middle class income, you could live in that city and like afford an apartment or afford a house. You could.
All I know is that like I've only been to New York twice.
Mhm.
And the first time it was record breaking cold spell. It was in February. I was there for a wedding. It was miserable.
Mhm.
So there was almost no sightseeing that we could do because it was just too darn cold to be out and about.
Yeah.
The second time I went with two girlfriends, one of them who used to live in New York City. And it
Mhm.
was, we were like single and on,
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
out there for fun and doing the show and doing the shopping and doing the,
Right.
restaurants and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just looked around and thought, this is suffocating. The buildings were so tall. I felt like they were going to fall down on me. And
Yeah.
people are walking their dogs on the concrete and they're pooping
Mhm.
and peeing on the like, where are the parks? Where's the open space? Where the kids play? Where do people breathe?
Uh-huh.
I'm not a big city girl. I am not.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
I guess somebody has to be big city people, but it's not me. And, there's just, to me, it's, I don't know. I don't see the appeal, but it's stifling
Right.
as far as, freedoms and affordability. And
Mhm.
I just can't figure out why anybody would want to live there.
Yeah. Well, anymore, that's a question a lot of people are asking because they're leaving in record numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, hey, and that's one of the beautiful things about our federal system is those places compete with 50 other states, and people are leaving those places, and that's a good thing. And they're losing electoral votes for the same reason, by the way, which is another good thing.
Well,
So,
they will if we can actually get our voter rolls cleaned up.
right, right,
They won't if we don't.
yeah,
Um,
and I think I do believe that's happening. That combined with you're also getting rid of a lot of illegals, a lot of people who have no business here. All those things are combining. I don't want to be. You never want to be overconfident, so I don't want to come across as that. We need to be fighting this thing as if we're in the NCAA championships and it's overtime, right? That's the way we have to play this game. Having said that, I think we're actually ahead for once, and we just got to keep playing a good hand. They've given us a good hand by their bad actions.
I certainly hope so. I mean, I really, really, really hope that, and I think we should turn well, I mean, well, I guess we could talk a little bit about Mississippi since we're talking about voting,
Mhm.
but I mean, of course, we're going to talk about Iran.
Yeah.
And I hope that Iran isn't,
Mhm.
I just hope, I want to trust Trump. I want to trust that he has, he's doing that whole 4D chess. But I get so worried. But let's talk about a little bit about this Mississippi Election Day trial.
Okay.
Because what I think is, I mean, obviously it's going to be, it is going to ripple into other states. In case anybody else is curious about it, the Mississippi Republicans are actually arguing in favor of a state law to allow the state to count ballots as long as they've been received. Sorry, to count ballots up to 5 days post-election day, as long as they've been postmarked by election day.
Now, why are Republicans arguing that? Because they're not really Republicans.
Well, at any rate, it went to the Supreme Court.
Mhm.
And the Supreme Court is looking to strike it down. They are definitely indicating that they're going to strike it down. Now, the case is only about federal elections. So that's going to be the immediate response. But of course, once you have that precedent set, other states are going to be looking at, well, how does that affect more local, statewide and local elections? I think everybody, I mean, one of the things that I think it was Roberts said, was it Roberts? Where he said, we have all of these traditional days in,
Mhm.
the American, in American tradition, American lexicon. We have Memorial Day, we have Labor Day, we have Veterans Day,
Mhm.
and we have Election Day.
Yeah.
And everybody understands it is a day.
Yeah.
So what's happened here?
Mhm.
Everybody should assume that everything pertaining to that day. I mean,
Yeah.
for goodness sakes, Independence Day. Isn't that more important than Election Day? We only get one day for that. We get 5 days, 10 days, however many,
Mhm.
30 days in the
Yeah.
case of California,
Mhm.
to count ballots. And so we really need to be watching that. Because that'll be very good for us.
Not to be cocky, because we've seen things go the wrong way with the Supreme Court and several things. But having said that, I am really pretty certain that's going to go the correct way, and they'll be no longer able to do that. Because I can tell you, for example, in Washington State, there was a Republican governor here who ran like 3 different times. I can't think of his name, and they kept doing the ballots. They kept counting over and over and over, and then once they got what they wanted, then they stopped, and that was it, right? And they did that like 2 or 3 different times here. This is in the early 2000s, so this cheating is absolutely rampant with the voting, and I think that. And I was just looking at Oregon, and I think this is true of California. I don't think these places are as blue as we think. By the way, I really don't. Um, I think I saw, maybe we mentioned, don't know, correct me if I've already mentioned this, but in California, the top 2 Republican candidates are polling at about 30%, and the top 2 Dems or top 3 Dems combined are like only 20. And in Oregon, the Republican candidates polling at 40%, the Democrats at 45%, so within 5%. You start eliminating this cheating and that sort of thing, or as I say, minimizing it. You're never going to get rid of it entirely. Wow, you know.
Well, in California, Republicans have endorsed Steve Hilton for
Mhm.
governor.
Okay.
But there was a sheriff, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's like Beria or something. Beria. Yeah, I can find his
Something.
name.
He's a Riverside sheriff.
Yes.
I mean, solid candidate. He's actually
Mhm.
got a case. He is suing the state about elections. And
Yeah, Bianco. That's his name. Bianco.
Sheriff Bianco.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not giving up.
Mhm.
You've got these guys who are really committed to transparency and fighting for the taxpayer. And
Mhm.
he's not the endorsed candidate from the Republican Party. And and
Mhm.
and I think that Republicans need to learn to fall in line and just like get behind the endorsed candidate and quit
Yeah.
like cannibalizing the effort, right?
Right.
But
Mhm.
if this guy continues his case, which I think he should,
Mhm.
all of that could help just lift up. It would be the
Mhm.
wind beneath the wings that we need,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
California.
Well, when you get down to it, I mean, what are you running? What are you going to run on in California? The place, I can't think of a single positive thing out of the state. It's like at the bottom or near the bottom in any category that you want to imagine, any category.
Well,
So
the only thing that it excels at is the natural landscape is what God gave us.
right,
Anything that man did, is disgusting.
I mean, you're talking about they took the most iconic place in the world. I'm right to tell people all the time I live in California. Look, the best place to live in the world is the United States, and the best place to live in the United States is California, and the best place to live in California is Southern California. It's like it was an amazing place from probably the early 50s through the early 2000s. Absolutely amazing. And you had what do you call it, center right governors pretty much all the way through that, Duke Mason, Reagan, Wilson, even Brown during that time period, right? And the same could be said of Oregon and Washington, by the way. It was back and forth, and it's only been the last 30 years when it became a uniparty. And like in any banana republic, when you have one party, we all know what happens, and that's what's happened in these 3 states.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and more, unfortunately. All right.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Should we throw some bombs into the conversation and talk about Iran?
We should finish up with the bomb. So what's the latest on Iran? Like I said, I only looked at a little bit today. I know that we're positioning ourselves to send in ground troops, and that's where I left off.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is it? Was it last week, I guess, or a week before? I think last week or the week before. Trump had agreed to send in up to 500 troops on a single deployment. Okay. Then he started bombing the island, Karg Island. Okay. 8 mile square island, 16 miles from Iran's Persian Gulf coast. It's the source of 90% of the country's oil exports. Okay. So he did that. And next thing you know, apparently negotiations are on. And what was it? Was it Sunday or Monday where he posted on Truth Social that negotiations were underway and that we were going to now have a 5-day reprieve. As long as negotiations continue, no more bombing. Well, that didn't even last 24 hours. There's been continued bombing. And yesterday, Trump said the Iranian regime has now agreed not to pursue nuclear weapons in order to stop the U.S. military from striking the country. So that was just yesterday. He also deployed the 82nd Airborne Army and 2 other amphibious ready groups. Each of those 2 amphibious ready groups together make up 10,000 troops. So you've got 10,000 plus you've got the 82nd Airborne. I'm not sure how many's in that. Plus you've got 500, I think, that he originally had deployed, or at least said that he was going to deploy. The thing about the 182nd is they are they're the team that you put out. First of all, they deploy quickly. They can deploy with only 18 hours notice, and they do airborne assaults and they hold key objectives until additional forces can arrive. So they're like the guys that you send in to, shock and awe and then hold things until the real guys show up. So I'm just not sure what's going on. I know Iran has been bombing the crap out of or Israel has been bombing the crap out of Iran. Iran has been coming back. They've been bombing Israel. They've been bombing our friendly neighbors. They've been bombing our installations in the region. So I didn't even look today to see what's happening. If hell is still raining from the sky. But I know that the discussion is this is a conversation about oil. This is a power play. Trump at the same time is pointing out that Cuba has now had its 3rd nationwide blackout because they don't have the fuel. They used to get it from Russia. They don't get it from Russia anymore. And now Trump is casually saying to reporters, well, I may just, go in and take Cuba. And the journalists are like, well, when you say take Cuba, Mr. President, do you mean you're going to have negotiations? He's like, no, I say go in and take
it. Well, I will tell you let me just tell you what I think. First of all, you're not supposed to know the strategy, by the way. Neither am I. Neither are any of us. I mean, it kind of cracks me up. We hear the reporters and everybody go, we don't know what's going on. Well, you're not supposed to know what's going on. Right? So, and he's talking to more people than just the American press and the American people. He's talking to China with these actions. He's talking to Russia with these actions. This is classic, what's the term I'm looking for? Asymmetrical warfare. Right. It's classic asymmetrical warfare. And I think that's the game he's playing. From my perspective, just looking at from a historical perspective, I've thought for the last 40 years, we need to go in and just get the friggin' uranium. right? I mean, I thought this should have been done a long time ago, because as long as they have it, they're just going to come back and redo it again. Now you could do what we did a few months ago, bomb the thing, and then wait, another 20 years until they get to another point where we're on the brink of a disaster, and then go do it again. Or finally a Democratic administration gets, stays in office and just lets them run to hell. And before you know it, they're tossing nukes over Europe and eventually here. They've already shown they have the capacity to toss something. What they sent one to Diego Garcia, which means all of Europe now.
But I wonder about that, Don. I wonder if that was like a fluke. Not a fluke, but if that was a distraction, like maybe that's all that they had, because
that may be, but
because otherwise, why would they be talking?
Yeah. Well, all you need is one of those to get through.
But they busted it. Like, I mean, I'm wondering, like, was that? I don't know. I just think, like, did they do that hoping that something would happen, but that was all that they had? Or did they do it and Trump was somehow in on it, and use that as leverage to, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're looking for a way out. I don't know, because you've got the Board of Peace. You got people signing up, let me get my name on the list. Let me get my name on the list. You've got, the Palestinian Authority signing up to be on the Board of Peace.
Well, and here's the other thing it's done. It's totally shown Europe where they are. They have been a vassal state for the United States for basically the last 40. They mooched on us for the last 40 years. They have no defense. Look at Great Britain. They can't they don't have a ship ready. Did you see how weak their defense? We're talking about the greatest Navy in history, like as recently as 80 years ago. And now they got like 2 ships they can send. So to pay for all their free healthcare and all their free drugs and all their lattes, 90-day vacations, they now are 100% dependent on the United States. So this whole thing with NATO's done. It really is. I mean, it's really us. It's the United States, and they should pay us tribute. I mean, just like Rome. Okay, you don't want to pay for your own stuff? Fine, then you pay tribute. And if you don't want to pay the percentage for your own defense, that's fine. We'll just tear off the living hell out of you and get it from me that way. And I think that's the direction that we need to go. If you want to be in diapers and stay home with your parents and live in the basement, then you got to pay the freight. And that's precisely what Europe has shown us. They put themselves in a position where they can't complain about anything. They were literally buying oil from Russia while at the same time bombing them through Ukraine. Yeah. Does that make any sense to you?
Right.
So, I think what Trump has done is just pulled the curtain back and said, hey, well, if we're going to cover all this stuff, then we need to get paid for it. And by the way, we need to make a checkmate move on China, which is another thing that's done. All of this stuff is done. It's shown China. Remember, they're talking about going to Taiwan. Now, if you look at what we just did in Venezuela, you look at what we just did in Iran, I think you're thinking twice about attacking Taiwan. The message from this, put in the street vernacular, is, do you want some of this too? Because that's what you're going to get. Because Taiwan is a lot more capable than people realize. So that checkmates them. And to use a lesson from back in history, and I think this is fascinating stuff because I love the history. You think about Japan. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, look at it through the lenses of bullies. They looked at the United States and said, man, those guys are just like sissies. Their so-called friend, Great Britain, Hitler's bombing the bejesus out of them, and they won't even help them. They won't send troops. Hell, they won't even selling weapons. The Lend-Lease, we were sending them junk stuff. So they thought to themselves, well, they're just a bunch of sissies. They're never going to do anything. We'll just bomb Pearl Harbor. And of course they'll quit and roll over and nothing will happen. That's what they thought. So that's what happens when you show bullies weakness. So by doing what Trump has done, the signal to China is, you don't want none of this. You can talk all day long to bullies. They don't care until you punch them in the face. And Hitler was the same way. The Neville Chamberlain thing. No, Neville Chamberlain and Daladier, I think from France, from the 30s, they started breaking the Versailles Treaty. They weren't supposed to have more than 500,000 troops. Hitler went and built a 4.5 million man army, and France and Great Britain didn't do anything but beg and plead. Oh, please don't do that. Oh, you naughty boy. Then he takes Czechoslovakia. Oh, that's mean. Don't do that. Then they do the Anschluss, take some more Czechoslovakia. No, please. They kept pleading and begging until finally the guy invaded Poland and they had to do something. If they had stopped him when he had a 500,000 man army, they never would have been in that position. And that's precisely the analogy you got to look at when you see what's going on here. You got to stop these people early before they get lethal. And so, now obviously there's risk, but people forget, yeah, there's risks in doing this, but there's even greater risks in not doing it. I mean, can you imagine an Iran with nuclear weapons? And the geography too. People forget that's the most strategic geography on Earth. The Malacca Straits are within like 1,000 miles of that. 80% of China's trade, 80% of their oil goes through the Malacca Straits. I mean, he who controls that controls the world's economy.
Well, are you? Yeah, I'm not dialed into that, but I love that Trump is forcing the Europeans to start owning the Strait of Hormuz. And I love that there's been some call outs on the insurance companies. They're the ones who actually shut down the strait. It wasn't the Iranians, who shut it down. It was the insurance companies. So how much power do these financial institutions have over our freedom?
Well, I love the fact that he checkmated them too. It's like, you know what? We'll just insure it then. Which pretty much puts Great Britain out of business, right? So that's going to be an interesting one too. Guess what? The one thing that you did have was that, and now you don't have that either. So it's if you're going to be the world hegemon, I guess we're just going to behave like one. I mean, these countries are supposed to be pro-freedom, and although you can tell by their internal politics,
they're not. They're not.
So us and a few Eastern European countries think of the humor of that. So now Poland and Hungary are more free than Great Britain and France.
Who was it? There's a female head of state. Is it Germany? Who said that she's going to start deporting illegals?
Yeah, that must be. I can't think of her name. It's the party. It's the something for German freedom, democratic free Germany. But yeah, I think she's amazing. The other one is Marie Le Pen in France. She's also amazing. And both of those parties are gaining at the polls huge. The problem is their politicians don't represent, same problem we have here. The politicians don't represent the people. They just have it a lot more there. They have a lot worse than we have here. But on the other hand, you have countries like, I think it was Norway, Sweden, a couple of those have come out like Japan, and they've said no, they're kicking immigrants out. They're shutting it down.
Yeah. Well, Sweden and Norway have been destroyed by the immigrants. I mean, the rape rates are just, I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. And that goes back to one of the things, I'll call it Christendom. And we don't call it that anymore. And we're afraid to call it that. And we need to stop doing that. Is the Western civilization is synonymous with Christianity. And the reason why Christian countries are perform better is because they're Christian.
Yeah.
The moral code of Christianity works better than any other moral code anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And it's clear, and we keep not just saying it. We'll use words like culture and all this other stuff because we don't want to come across as triumphalist, I guess, and saying it's just better. But the fact of the matter is, it's better. It'd be like if we were in the football in the NFL, and let's say the Seattle Seahawks are beating everybody up. If you were one of the teams that lost to them, you would look at them and say, "Well, that's what good looks like. What can we do so that we can beat them the next time around?"
Yeah. How can we be like them? How can we replicate everything that they do?
Right. That's what you would do. But we sit around, and if we're the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, we're winning the World Super Bowl, if you will. But we're sitting around saying how terrible we are. That's ludicrous. You realize in Japan, they don't teach about all that stuff they did. If you're in Japan, you go to school, you're not learning about the rape of Nanking. You're not learning about slaughtering millions and millions of Chinese in World War II. You're not learning about experimenting in I think it was Unit 71, where they were doing surgical experiments on people while they were still alive. They're not teaching the rape of the the Bataan Death March. They don't learn any of that stuff. Same thing with Germany. They don't teach them that stuff about Hitler and all of that. It's like they've erased it. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying they don't talk about how awful their culture.
They have a huge guilt. They have a huge guilty conscience.
Yeah.
In Germany. In Germany, they're constantly. What do you call that? What do you call that when you're like?
Yeah, self-flagellation.
Self-flagellation. I mean, like I was there. I lived there for a couple months in 2022 and 2021, and it was like enough already. Like, come on, like you move on. But
well, you think about the great things that Germany has brought to civilization. Okay, you had this bad window, man. You screwed up with Hitler, right? But man, Bach, Beethoven, Mendelssohn, are you kidding me? The science that's come out of Germany, that's an incredible country.
Yeah.
And at some point, you got to pick yourself up and move on. And if there's any country on earth that has no business being ashamed of anything, it is the United States. I mean, the list of good this country has done that we don't teach in the world anymore, and we need to bring it back. I mean, you're talking about a country that basically, along with Great Britain, single-handedly ended slavery, a 6,000-year institution, and this country, like, basically fought a civil war to end it. No one else in the world's ever done that. You look at the material wealth that's come to the world because of the United States, the freedom that's come to the world because of the United States, the ending the wars, and then rebuilding countries from scratch that were our enemies. You go to Japan, rebuild Japan, and suddenly it's the number 2 economy in the world in like 40 years because we did that. Same with Europe. Went and rebuilt them after World War II. They were in ashes in the 1950s. Rebuilt them. They went on to become our biggest competitor economically. Who else has done that in history? It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
And we don't talk about it enough. We should be bragging from the rooftops, actually.
Well, but people are offended.
Yeah.
When Trump does that, you know, we're the greatest. It was the greatest.
And what I say to that is tough noogies. It's like when my kids coach kids sports, we get blown up by 40 points. Like, oh, crying. They beat us by 40. Well, get better. It won't happen next time. You don't like it, improve.
Oh, I can tell you're a great dad, Don.
Yeah, I'm so mean.
The beating will continue until morale increases.
Exactly. That's exactly right. The road to the top is rough.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Well,
it is 6:58, Mr. Anderson.
It looks like we did it again. Sports fans, we're so glad you guys joined us here once again. Let freedom ring. We live in the greatest country on the earth by far. And if we're going to keep it, then we're going to need to act like it. There's my closing thought.
Yeah, we do. For sure. One of the things that I'm going to talk about next week, because you said the greatest country in the world and in the universe is there's some spooky stuff going on with some scientists and some researchers and some government contractors who are all related to UFOs. So we're going to talk about that next week.
Oh, that
I've
disappeared.
got that on my list.
Yeah,
Yes.
I heard that. It is weird. Okay.
Murders, disappearing, generals who are just leaving their house with no shoes and a gun in the middle of the night. Weird.
Yeah, probably seen walking out the door with Elvis Presley.
That's right. We're going to get to the bottom of it, Don, next week.
Absolutely.
Tune in.
Until then. Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye now.